Designing PractiCAM materials. PractiCAM allows you to design a completely limitless number of materials directly within the system so that you can coincide the proper material while working on a takeoff. If you would like to adjust materials, add or delete them, you will do it by going over to my libraries, coming down to materials, and just clicking on the word materials. That will launch you into your materials section. Now there are two parts to this materials section. First is metals, and the second is our insulation. Our insulation contains 4 quadrants: acoustic liner materials, where we design our list of materials, our wrap materials, our sheet stock for acoustic liners, and our coil stock for acoustic liners. You'll notice that all the appropriate icons highlight that go with the appropriate section, and these are for metals, so they're shaded out. When I click on metals, these icons will highlight and these will be shaded out. Now inside our metal materials section we have 4 quadrants as well: metal materials, sheet stock, coil stock, and metal gauges. Each of these have their appropriate place where they will show inside your takeoff when you're working on them. For example, metal materials, we will notice the choices here go from galvanized 60 all the way down to regular galvanized. If we exit out of this field and look inside our takeoff field, under materials you will see that list that goes from galvanized 60 all the way from galvanized regular. The next section would be your gauges. You'll notice that your gauges are running from 30 all the way down to 10. Gauges are being pulled from our gauges section. Right here under our gauges section you see we have the same choices in our takeoff field: 30 all the way to 10. This is where PractiCAM will pull them from. Then you have your sheet stock and your coil stock. Depending on the number or different varieties of names you have will depend on the number of choices you see in your sheet stock or metal stock. For example, under sheet stock here we see we only have sheet and coil. If we go to our takeoff screen and look under metal stock name, you will see we have those two choices underneath metal stock: coil and sheet. This section helps you develop an understanding of where the choices come from when you're inside PractiCAM's takeoff field. All of your material tables will be designed here, and then those choices will appear while you're working on any given job. The next step is to learn how to design your own metal material, sheet stock, coil stock, or metal gauge, so that you can always choose the appropriate material for the appropriate job. In order to design a new metal material, all you need to do is click on the Create a New Metal Material icon. When you do that, PractiCAM is going to open up in a completely new material for you, and you only have to fill out 4 choices. First will be the name of this material, which we're going to call brass. Second will be the density. We click on it, type in the number and the appropriate density. Next is the cost per pound, whatever it happens to be at the time. For this we're going to say $1.20 for brass. And then we choose the preview we'd like to have, a face and back, so that we're inside our takeoff we can see that we're working on brass. All you need to do is click on the color and then click on the gray box, select the color I'd like for the face, and then we click on the color, click on the gray box, and select what we'd like for the back. We've now just created a brand new material, which if we go into our takeoff screen, we will see appear right under material. You'll notice that brass has now been added. If I click on brass, you will see it has the appropriate appearance and colors that we selected in our material table. The next thing I would like to point out is that all of these quadrants work with one another. If I change a number in the top quadrant, it will actually adjust all the appropriate numbers in the other remaining 3. For example, you will see here that if I take brass, which is 534 in density, it's got a cost of 120, and then adjust this material here on this sheet stock to brass, which is now an option because I've added it up here, you notice that all the numbers have adjusted accordingly. Square footage, cost per pound, and based on the width and length, PractiCAM has even calculated the cost of the sheet. This is how we design a new metal material. Now we're going to learn how to design a new sheet stock. In order to design a new sheet stock, all we need to do is click on the icon that says Create a New Sheet Metal Stock, and then just fill out the appropriate choices. First we're going to give it a name. This is going to be the name that we're going to see appear under metal stock, which we will go to after we've designed it. Let's call the name of this sheet 48 by 120. That'll be the name of this sheet stock. Then we're going to choose a material. All of the choices inside our material table that we have up top here will appear here. And you'll notice that once I decide to select a given material, that all of these numbers here will automatically adjust based on whatever numbers we have in our metal material tables above. Same thing if I were to change my gauge. All of the choices for gauges are all the choices we see right here on the right. If I were to select 22, you will notice that the surface density changes based on the density and the thickness numbers we have here. Now I can choose the width. Since we're going to call this 48 by 120, we're going to say that the width is going to be 48, and we're going to leave the length at 120. You'll notice as I change even the width and length that the numbers are completely adjusting the entire time. Even our preview over here will show us exactly the size of the sheet stock we're utilizing. Once we've designed exactly what we want, we can now simply go to our takeoff field and always apply 48 by 120. We'll click on New Takeoff, and then we'll come over to Metal Stock Name and just select our 48 by 120 stock. And now we can choose any particular gauge that we have in stock for that amount and use it appropriately. Now in the beginning, when you're designing your material tables, which you really don't have to set up in the very start of using PractiCAM, you might want to be able to just copy and paste a given material table, because the only thing you're going to need to really change is probably the gauges to start. So one of the features you can do to make it quick is use your copy and your paste. If you'd like to make a copy of this particular material, click on Copy, and then follow it with the paste key. And that's going to just simply take it and make a copy. Now what we can do is just adjust it, and we're going to call this 20 gauge. And then we can come over here and copy this one and paste it. And we're going to call this one 18 gauge. So this way you can see all the numbers will automatically adjust, and we continue to develop our material table so that we'll always have a full stock of materials at hand when we're inside a given takeoff. That is how we develop sheet stock metals. Next is setting our coil stock. Coil stock works identical to sheet stock. The only difference is there is a total length as a factor, and there is no cost per sheet because we're doing it off a coil. All you need to do is come over here to the icon that says Create a New Coil Metal Stock. Click on it. Name it what you want. We'll name this My Coil. Select the material you would like. A gauge. And just like in sheet metal stock, the numbers will automatically adjust. A width, a length, your total length, and then you have your cost. And these numbers, just as up top, will automatically adjust. In other words, if I adjust this number here for square footage, the cost per pound will also change. For example, I change this to 50 cents. Notice that this changes. I change it back, the numbers automatically adjust. Now we'll be able to see My Coil, and here you can see My Coil listed underneath metal stock name. Next is how to create a new metal gauge. Just like the other three parts of metals, all you need to do is come over here to the icon that says Create a New Metal Gauge. PractiCAM will open up another row. We can name the gauge whatever we want. In this case, I'm just going to name it Gauge 10. This is the actual gauge that it is, so we're just going to leave it the same because we want it to appear a 10 in our takeoff field. But we could label it anything we want. And then we're going to add a thickness. Now once we come to our new takeoff and look under our gauges, you will see that we now have a 10th gauge that's been added. So we can select that and continue working. The last section in our material tables is our insulation. By clicking on our insulation button up top, it'll bring you into the other half of our material tables. These two sections actually work identical to one another, so you can always revert back to the videos on metals in order to learn how to design a new material. Essentially here you have 4 icons to match the 4 types of liner. First we have our material tables, which is our list of material in our takeoff field, which we'll show you here. Here you can see your entire list of everything that's in our material tables for liner. And then we have our liner stock and our wrap. And our liner stock name and our wrap are being pulled from these two sections right here, where we have 1/2 inch wrap for wrap materials and sheet stock. This icon controls the wrap material. This one controls the new liner material. This one controls our new liner coil. And the last one, of course, is for our create a new liner sheet stock again. So So it works identical to metals. If you have any questions, just go back to those videos and they'll be able to help you through.